is a very weird and dirty fairy tale from a time when they were full of twisted tricks, overeager lovers, spice, and of course, horrific endings. But fortunately, some characters do get a very happily ever after, and you could too with this special offer. Once upon a time when fairy tales were way more raunchy, our story starts off in an unusual way, with the two crankiest, oldest, most ill-tempered old women ever. They were the summary of all misfortunes: spiked tufts of remaining hair, lumpy foreheads, hairy chest, pools of drool. But hey, getting old is not easy. These two sisters dwelled in an apartment below the street, right across from the king, who heard every single one of their aged complaints, like a jasmine flower has fallen from above and had given one of them a lump on the head, and the other dislocated her shoulder picking up a scrap of paper. Super glass half empty types. But what the king overhears is glass over full, and he thinks, wow, there dwells a young woman with the most alluring voice and a body so delicate that flowers bruise her, and she clearly has no muscle mass to lift even a feather. I must have her at once. And so the king makes his move on this prime cut of the most delectable of meats, because he was overcome by a craving all the way down to the little bones in his feet. I'm sure that's not the only place. Anyway, he sends down sighs. Where, oh where do you hide yourself, jewel, splendor? Uncover those lovely graces. Don't be so stingy about letting yourself be seen. Give me an offering. Let me see the instrument from which issues that sweet voice, etc. He's very verbose when his fuse is lit. The old women plug up their ears against his abundant sweet nothings, which only adds, wood to the king's fire. He pounds on their door, demanding to speak with her, to see her. The sisters, wise with years, resolve not to waste this opportunity to nab a bird that was about to fly into the snare all by himself, which might as well. They agree, well, one does, in the sugariest of voices, to let the king see her dainty little finger 8 days from now. This is almost too much for the impassioned king, stuck in the kiln of love's flames as he is. He counts the intervening seconds obsessively. Meanwhile, the sisters need every minute to make their old wrinkly fingers look plump and youthful. So they spend every moment of that time sucking on them and plot that the sister with the smoothest, plumpest finger at the end will get to shove it through the keyhole for the king's inspection. Sounds super unhygienic, but what the king wants... Come out, wherever you are, ew, demands the king after the 8 torturous days, and the older of the sisters pokes her juicy digit out to the king. Now, this was no mere finger, but a sharpened stick that pierced the king's heart. It lights his powder keg, to say the least, and he caresses it, kisses it, and begs for the woman to spend me for what I'm worth. You know, after all, that I'm a king and not any old cucumber. He says this to make it clear that as king, he can take who and what he wants without consequences, but what I'm also getting from this is that he's no spring chicken himself. I mean, old cucumber is pretty telling. So far, they kind of seem like a great wizened match. But of course, the king expects this woman to be super young. He also has a phrase, take first, ask later, that he lives by. It worked with kissing the finger, so it will probably work for getting more time with this mysterious lady. But the older sister with the younger looking finger knew where the old devil kept his tail, since she was a master fox, and agrees in her two-can-play-this-game way to accept him in bed. My lord, since you are inclined to put yourself beneath one who is under you, I am prepared to do your will, on the condition that I be received in your bed at night and without a candle, since my heart cannot bear the burden of being seen naked. The king's only thinking with the old cucumber, and so gurgles with delight at the thought of sowing the field where he intended to harvest bushels of joy and heaps of delight. By nightfall, the old woman has done an impressive job of smoothing all her wrinkles to the back of her body and tying them into a knot with twine between her shoulders. I have questions, but the king does not, because take first, ask later. Anyway, he's so primed and doused in perfume that he can't smell her lack of cleanliness, especially in the tickly areas. His fuse is lit. He feels the twine behind her holding the floppy skin taut, but his cannon is fired regardless. Later that night, curiosity gets the better of him, and he lights a candle to see the beauty he has made sweet music with, only to see an old harpy. He flies into such a rage that he wanted to cut the tow rope that had moored that ship. Ooh, ouch, gross. He yells for his servants to rush upstairs quickly, and flailing like an octopus, the king makes them all look at that old boogeyman's grandmother who twicked him. Which, why would you want your entire staff to see something you're not proud of doing? I guess he should have asked first, taken later, just saying. The entire staff and king are yelling about how to dispose of this old gorgon, who finally starts to wake up, defending herself with the adage, "An old chicken makes good broth," which, I mean, yeah, and the king still slurped that soup, right? Unable to own up to his actions, the king has her scooped up, thrown out the window, and into the garden below, far enough to break her neck. But as luck would have it, her hair gets tangled in a fig tree, sparing her from splatting. She spends that night dangling above the garden, in the buff, a sight to be seen, I'm sure. The next morning, a group of surly fairies pass by her. Now, these fairies have never laughed or spoken before, but they are fit to burst upon seeing her funny, pruny form dangling from the fig tree. So, they each bestow a blessing on her: youth, beauty, wealth, luck, and a full court at her beck and call. Fairies aren't all bad, you just have to amuse them. They essentially doubled this lady's lifespan, which is pretty generous. When the king finally wakes up that next day, he decides to peer down and check out the old woman's broken form in the garden below, only to find a 15-year-old noblewoman on a velvet and gold throne sitting below a fig tree. He can't even help it, just throws on a blanket over his old cucumber self and rushes down to ask her to marry him. He couldn't resist the sumptuous and stunning bloom of her flowers and wine press of a mouth and her crossbows, aka eyelashes. And her wealth, of course. The oldest sister, now in a 15-year-old body, agrees to marry him. The blanketed old cucumber king and the renovated old woman hold a huge feast, inviting every woman in the kingdom, happily ever after. But I said this was a gruesome tale, and wow is it. Because at the feast is the 15-year-old old woman's younger sister, still looking, well, old, because she is. When the two sit side by side, it's obvious one is a younger version of the other, and that really gets to the older-looking one. "What did you do, my sister? What did you do?" she asks over and over again. And I'd want to know her secret too. I'm sure anyone would. The youthful old bride keeps saying, "I'll explain everything later." But the night drags on. The feast is so good, but so long. The old younger sister cannot stop asking her sister's youthful secret, and it's starting to make a scene. Under the king's glare at interrupting the feast yet again, the young bride finally snaps and tells her beloved sister anything to get her off her back. "I skinned myself, sister," she says. And this definitely gets something off of someone's back. Wasting no time in seeing her young older sister's flawless results, the old younger sister sets straight off to a barber to get herself skinned, too. At first, he refuses this gruesome, ill-fated task. She offers him more money in the promise of more wealth to come if only he will do as she asks. So he does, probably regretfully, and this is no fast process. Red pools beneath the old woman as inch by inch the barber does his work of separating her outside from her insides. He begs her to let him stop, but "she who wants to appear beautiful must suffer," says the old woman, and suffer she does. "She who wants to appear beautiful must suffer," she says over and over again, until her very last breath. And this is where the story ends, with some moral about the dangers of vanity and cosmetics. But honestly, it kind of feels contradictory, and the whole story makes it very clear that if someone is old or ugly, it's fine to throw them out of a castle window. So taking care of your body is kind of important if you want to survive in that setting. But of course, there's a lot more going on in this old Basile fairy tale, The Old Woman Who Was Skinned. It's pretty gruesome right at the end, and I can't imagine the guilt the surviving sister feels for her role in her sister's demise. But before that, it was all razzle and spicy dazzle. And I'd like to think that this old, odd, renovated couple is having a happily ever after as often as the old cucumber will allow. And even if that's not up to task, something in Adam and Eve's arsenal of toys will be. Scepters, wands, rings, strings, and other magical things. Don't walk. Flail like an octopus to see the fantastic treasures for yourself. All shipped discreetly to your castle. Use my code, FRANK, for 50% off 2 items and free shipping. Enjoy your own happily ever after and after and after. Harvest bushels of joy and heaps of delight. Spice up that soup with code FRANK tonight. This was one of the spicier Italian fairy tales, and I really got a kick out of how the king willfully misconstrued the old women's grumbling about bruising as them being tender and delicate, as opposed to just old cranks. I also appreciated the old women using their lifetime of experience to play the same game the king was playing. Honestly, 2 or 3 of a kind. Oh, and the fairies who were so generous just for a laugh. Precious. But what was your favorite part of this spicier Italian fairy tale? Would you like to see more stories like this? Let me know in the comments below. And do subscribe so you won't miss the next video simmering in the cauldron right now. Goodbye!